The Speaker of the Philippine House of Representatives has resigned. Martin Romualdez, named in a scandal over corruption in flood control projects, less than 2 weeks after the Senate President suffered the very same fate. Mr. Romualdez is a cousin of the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The now former House Speaker told lawmakers he was leaving with, quote, a clear conscience and only to allow the new investigatory body to do its job. Congressman Faustino Diaz III, he's a deputy speaker and an ally of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., has assumed his position. Public anger has intensified over so-called ghost flood management projects, in which money was allocated, but the resulting projects either came in below construction standards or were found not to have existed in the first instance. Thousands are expected to turn out in Manila on Sunday for a trillion peso march. That's named for a Greenpeace estimate of how much could have been swindled since 2023. President Marcos has set up a 3-person commission to probe spending in the past 10 years on these projects. And for more, CNA's Buena Bernal joins us live from Metro Manila. Buena, Martin Romualdez, not just a cousin of the president, but also a known ally of President Marcos. Will his voluntary resignation insulate the president from further criticism over this spending on these ghost projects?
Well, to begin with, Wei-Su, the possibility of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. being implicated in this corruption scandal is more largely influenced by factors way beyond the resignation of one person. Legally, for example, the Philippines practices the principle of presidential immunity from suit. There are differing legal opinions that say we must abandon this principle in cases of high crimes or in omissions that are beyond the scope of the president, but by tradition, presidents in the Philippines are almost always charged after their presidential term ends. Political consideration on the insulation of Mr. Marcos from this corruption scandal would also be some factions looking at what happens if he is implicated and public anger grows against him, and that leads to an impeachment, because you have to understand the political rivalry that he has with sitting Vice President Sara Duterte. And if he is impeached, then the head of state would then be Vice President Duterte. And there are, of course, factions that are also looking at that possibility as a consideration. But the protest organizers involved in that September 21 trillion people march you mentioned are demanding for accountability of people involved in this scandal, regardless of political leanings. Nonetheless, that 10-year period that's covered by the probe of the independent body that President Marcos ordered created actually spans 3 administrations, including the first half of his own, the full presidential term of former President Rodrigo Duterte, and the final year or 2 years of the late President Benigno Aquino III. Now, I spoke with Dr. Eric Batalla, who is a professor at the De La Salle University, and he showed me an analysis of the budget of the Public Works Department since 2011. And yearly, you will see there that the start of these flood control projects that are now being alleged as dubious actually started 2014, which means that it did span 3 administrations. But the peaks of that, according to his research, involved the years 2018, 2023, 2024, and 2025.
All right, Buena, the difficulty with finding guilty parties when the alleged wrongdoing spans several administrations, and those who have been implicated, or some have offered the defense that they see this probe as being driven by vested political interest.
Well, power play is always looked at just in terms of matters of state in an electoral democracy. But just very quickly here, what this saga shows, this smooth transition of position from Mr. Romualdez to the new House Speaker Faustino D. III, is this united front that administration-allied members of Congress are trying to project. And what that enables the administration, it enables them to have this period of transition to be less controversial. So there's now less political fallout. In fact, even as he announced his resignation today, Mr. Romualdez was honored by the House of Representatives for what the majority lawmakers called transformational leadership.
Thanks. Buena Bernal there reporting live for us there from Metro Manila.